Hey y'all. I am making a video today about my favorite and some of my least favorite books that I've read so far this year, but I want to do it in like kind of like a different way where I break it up by genres because I feel like if you lump them all together, realistically some of these books probably wouldn't be like favorites, but I don't want to forget them just because maybe it's not like a genre that I really like. On top of that, I also want to mention that one of my New Year's goals this year was to really branch out, try new genres, and I feel like I'm not really, I haven't really done that though this year. So I feel like this might be a little bit of a wake up call for me like, hey, remember that goal that you set for yourself? Yeah, why don't you start doing that? But I feel like the reason why I'm scared to try a new genre is because I'm a little bit intimidated because I have such an expectation that like, hey, I've never read this genre before. So what if I read it and everybody says it's like an amazing book? Maybe they're just smarter than me. And maybe I'm not gonna like it. And then I'm gonna feel stupid. And I don't really like feeling stupid. The genres that I want to break up this like video by is what Fable has given me. So Fable breaks up like what genres I've read, and obviously every book kind of has multiple genres sometimes. You obviously have like romantasy, you have like romance that can also be historical fiction. Obviously it can kind of like go hand in hand certain genres, but Fable gave me my five genres that I've read so far this year, which I feel like is not that many. But regardless, the five genres that I've read so far this year have been romance, literary fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, and sci-fi. So, I want to break it up. Hey, which books in each of those genres that I've read has been my favorite? My goal for this year was 35 books to read. I think at the time that I'm recording this, I'm at 26 books. I'll probably really like breeze by 35 and read more than that, God willing. You know what I mean? I'm going to start off with romance. So my favorite romance that I probably read so far this year has been One Golden Summer. Now, I didn't read the first one. I think the first one's every summer after. Didn't read the first one. I feel like you didn't really have to. Like you kind of got the gist of what was going on, and you didn't really even you only saw those characters for like a little bit, so I don't even read that part of the book. I love Alice and I love Charlie and I love them so bad and I won't be I mean I will explain. I love them so much. Like I love that Alice is such a like shy kind of girl but like seems normal and isn't that kind of girl where it's like, oh, I'm shy because I'm so different than everybody else. Like she's just shy because she's shy. Like that's her personality. And that's fine. Like some people are shy. And I appreciate that she doesn't like try to like put down anybody else because of the fact that maybe she's like a little bit more reserved. But she also like kind of has that self reflection in her to say like I do wish that these parts of myself because I'm more reserved, I feel like I've missed out on certain things. And I appreciate that when she starts in the book, the whole reason why she's there is because she wants to have a good summer and wants to help her grandmother, and she's obviously like a really sweet person, and she makes herself like a summer bucket list, and it's just everything that she wishes to do because she feels like she's missed out on that because she can tend to be more quiet or maybe more reserved or maybe like overthink it a little bit too much. And I feel like that's real. Like that's super real. And then you have Charlie, who is kind of like on the opposite end of the spectrum of he just does whatever he wants. But he has such a good personality. And it's not like he's some kind of like jerk or like mean or anything like that that I know of. At least I didn't read the first book. And I like how he brings out like a more adventurous part of Alice where it's just like not a pressure but like a hey like you should do this, like this is fun, like you're here on the lake on the summer, like have fun, do this, do that, like I'll be your buddy to go do this with. And I love their personalities together. It's like literally extrovert and introvert vibes, and I love that. It's just so cute and I really love their story. Like if I met them in person and I asked how they met and they told me how they met, I would be like, well, I mean, they should write a book about you guys. Oh, they actually did. Oh, makes sense because you guys have the cutest like couple origin story ever. So I loved that book. Also, on top of that, I felt like the pacing in the book was really good. Like, I never felt like, hey, let's maybe move this along, but I never also felt like we went from 0 to 100. Like, we didn't do any of that. Like, I felt like it was a really good progression for me personally for a book, a romance book, and I loved it. I just feel like it was a super realistic, really cute romance book. So really high up there for me in the romance category as well. It was like a toss up. I didn't know which one to pick. Was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I personally really like that book. I also felt like their romance was very like a good progression. Love the characters in that book as well. I just think that One Golden Summer slightly beat them, but I will say one of the books that got me back into reading was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I think I'm just kind of a sucker for anything like old Hollywood style. Like, I really like, I wish I could just like know the tea about everything that happened back then. And so the tie in with like the chapters in Great Big Beautiful Life, where we're talking about everything that happened back then and like the progression and kind of like the mystery of it and throwing that in along with the romance, I really enjoyed that. I feel like I saw people saying like they didn't like those chapters. Meanwhile, I think those were my favorite chapters. So moving on to fantasy. So my favorite fantasy book that I read this year was Queen of Shadows from the Throne of Glass series. I loved that book. Loved that book so much. I think I gave it 5 stars. Maybe I didn't. Um, but I love that book so much. I think it introduced characters that I still need to read Kingdom of Ash. I've read everything but Kingdom of Ash so far, and I think it introduced characters that have become my favorite characters. Listen, I love Aelin. I love her so bad. Manon is my favorite. Manon, everything that she does, I'll probably support it. I love her. I just really love her. I love her so much. And I felt like the end of Era of Fire into Queen of Shadows was just so phenomenal. It's just so good. It's so good. And I love how we got so many answers to like called Caltaine. We got answers to like the king. We got answers for Dorian. I just loved that book so much. And there's just so many iconic scenes in that book. I loved it so much. So that one was my favorite. The build up to Queen of Shadows and then reading Queen of Shadows and like having all of these amazing scenes and like characterizations and how you can understand like, hey, is Kale kind of annoying? Yeah, he is. But hey, if my friend was also possessed by a demon essentially, and you guys were like, we have to kill him, I would be like, whoa, let's slow down. So it's like understanding people's perspectives. And I always like when characters aren't super one dimensional in a fantasy because I feel like fantasy can become redundant at a certain point, and I appreciated that at least in this book it wasn't so like predictable, I guess you could say. It's not predictable in how every character is going to act and react, and I feel like the characterization of Selena slash Aelin has been phenomenal so far in this series. I feel like Aelin and Selena are two completely different characters. Like, they are not the same person in my eyes. And I feel like if you can do that, I feel like that's good. So, I mean, there's obviously cons to the series, and there's things that I will look back on when I finish this series that like I'm probably not going to appreciate, not going to enjoy, and I will probably talk shit about it. But Queen of Shadows, you're perfect. You're the golden child in my eyes. I love that book. So yeah. So the next one I'm going to talk about is my historical fiction. I'm a historical fiction fiend. I love historical fiction. I don't know. I think I got it from my mother, but I love historical fiction. Now, this one is a recent read, but I have so many thoughts about it. My favorite historical fiction that I've read so far this year has been The Women. Oh my god. I won't actually. I actually don't want to hear anything. Actually, unless she did something horrible, but I don't want to hear anything about this book. I actually don't care if you don't like it. Mm, that's gonna sound really mean, but I really like this book. Oh my god! First of all, anything where it's just all women, I'm probably gonna enjoy already. I'll leave it at that. I really didn't know that much about the Vietnam War. I really didn't know that much at all. This book did prompt me to do a lot of like research, and actually it prompted me to like kind of go into my goal, which is that I want to branch out and read new genres, which one of the genres I have not read this year has been nonfiction. I kind of want to research into it because this was insane. And the fact that like there's people like you drive on the road and you see people who are like, oh, Vietnam vet. Girl, you went there? The whole premise of this book is that they obviously needed nurses in Vietnam um during the Vietnam War, and our main character in the women goes to Vietnam because she's like a 19-year-old super naive girl. Like obviously the government was lying to us about like what was going on over there, like oh we're winning in Vietnam, and then she gets there and it's insane. Any kind of book that is going to talk about women in history, I'm probably going to obviously read it. And so talking about nurses in Vietnam and their lack of recognition and how much trauma and PTSD they went through. And if I'm not wrong, and I'll say if I'm wrong actually, I'm pretty sure PTSD or post traumatic stress disorder wasn't in like the DSM 5, I believe, or a diagnosable like condition until after Vietnam. And the exploration of just guilt and PTSD at such a young age and coming back and dealing with all of that on top of, like I said, the guilt of like fighting in a war like that and feeling like because you're a woman and people didn't recognize that you were in Vietnam helping, I feel like there's just so many layers there to peel back. Everything that she went through, and I'm 26, everything that she went through by the time that she was my age, I was like, yeah, that's crazy. That's actually crazy. I can't even begin to imagine. And I think that it also brings up just so many points of how important it is for people who see those kinds of traumatic things, whether it's war situations or anything like that, like the mental health aspect of it. It's just absolutely insane because it's just such a complex issue. It's such a complex issue. And I really appreciated a lot of parts of those books because it starts as a completely different character and it ends with a completely different character in the sense that the woman who went into that war and the woman who came back are completely different. So I really like that book and I would really recommend most people to read it and then also really research on your own into the horrors of like what happened in Vietnam and to the Vietnamese people because it goes so much further than just like what was happening in America and it's just devastating. It's absolutely devastating. Okay, so I haven't read that many literary fiction books this year. But my favorite literary fiction book that I did read so far this year was Wuthering Heights. Now, you'll see this trend actually. I like to read a book before I watch the movie. I'm just one of those kind of people. So, I wanted to read Wuthering Heights because also Wuthering Heights is one of my mom's favorite books and she's been telling me for a long time to read it and I wanted to read it before I went and I watched the movie in February. Which, whatever about that movie. How was this book written so long ago? Like actually, because the book was so tea. It was so tea. Like I wish that they were my neighbors because I would love to know what's going on. I would be like, what do you mean that you're married with that guy, but you still like your childhood crush, but your childhood crush is getting revenge on you because he. Oh my god, because he's like broke. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but oh my god, there's just so many layers to that book. And I feel like that book also falls under romance, obviously. But I just feel like that's a classic, classic literary fiction. And it also just touches on so many different like points. And I feel like it's such a basis for so many books nowadays, if that makes sense. Just this such a toxic relationship. Such a toxic relationship and I really enjoyed it. If you told me this book was written like 50 years ago, not actually because the language is obviously crazy in that book, but if it was written 50 years ago, I'd be like, hey, I would believe you. I don't know how her mind, Bronte, I don't know how your mind was working back then, but her mind was working. Her mind was juicy because that book was so good for me. So yeah, that was my favorite literary fiction. But I haven't read that many. I'm not like a big literary fiction girl, but I do want to read more because if I were to pick like a fiction book, I would always go for more of a historical fiction. Like I like any book I'm going to be found in that section if I go to a Barnes& and Noble, is the historical fiction section. But I really want to get into more literary fiction. So I need to find some good recommendations for me and really like do my research into some more because I think my list was really only 3 and I don't even remember the other 2. So on theme for myself, like I said, I read in the beginning of this year Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary opened doors for me that I don't even think I ever knew could be opened. What a way to start off my goal of the year of like expanding my genres because I think that sci-fi has absolutely it will absolutely because I'm kind of lacking right now, but whatever will become one of my favorite genres, which obviously, I mean, like, girl, I like Star Wars, like science fiction, any kind of science fiction, like movie or TV show, I'm probably gonna watch it. So why would I never read a science fiction book, you ask? I don't know. But Project Hail Mary was my first that I read this year, and I loved it. I feel like the book was better than the movie, but I loved the movie. I really, really loved Project Hail Mary. I think that everybody, if you put yourself, I feel like the story in general is already good, but I feel like everybody who would put themselves in Grace's shoes would feel the same way. Like, imagine waking up in the middle of nowhere in a galaxy far, far away, and you're like, I must be a hero. And then finding out, oh, I actually came here against my will. Again, complicated emotions, but then also like, do I even want to like save this planet anymore? But I also really like the science aspect of it. I have a very science brain. Like I really like science because this I feel like the way that it's really written by somebody who clearly like knows science and um researches into it. And I think that I forget the author's name now, but I feel like he's talked about that before where he really researches into things before he writes about it, and it was super interesting for me. Like I like when my brain actually works sometimes when I'm reading books that call for it. Just like the humor aspect of it as well. I think that it's not like a boring sci-fi where they're trying so hard to be like man cuz I don't really read books written by men. Anyways, I like how there's just like a little bit of like stakes to it. Like I like that it can be funny and silly but have stakes, you know? And I like that it was also smart. Like I like that it was a book that clearly wasn't written by a dumb person, in my opinion. So I like that book a lot. I think that my plan is to read another Andy Weir, that's his name. Andy Weir, I believe. Book. I have The Martian on my list. And I've never watched the movie. So I want to read the book, watch the movie. Okay. And now I want to shout out some of my least favorite books of this year. Now, before anybody comes at me, if you've read this book, because I don't know what you guys have read, if you've read this book, please know this is just not my favorite. There's been plenty of books that I actually really like, and I'll go on like Goodreads or Fable, and it's rated like 2 stars. And I'm like, you know what? To each their own. This was my cup of tea. And I think that's the beauty of entertainment, is it not? So, one of my least favorite romance books that I've read so far this year. ah, has been Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. I did not like that book. I think Ali Hazelwood is more of like a guilty pleasure reader. I don't think it takes a lot of brain cells to like read her books. Hey, that's fine. I like her books. Are you joking with me? If you talk about The Love Hypothesis, if you talk to me about Deep End, I really like those books. I think those were, if you asked me last year, those were some of my favorite books, romance books. I liked those books. Problematic Summer Romance was not this. It was She was not that girl for multiple reasons. First of all, the whole right, so the genre is romance, right? Where's the romance? Did not think there was any chemistry between the two characters, and I felt like it was like forced. I just felt like it was not a believable romance book. Like I would never imagine these two people together. Or if I'm getting like secondhand embarrassment or ick when these two characters talk to one another, I don't want it. Just get it out of my face actually. Now this one I'm kind of scared to say because this one maybe I'm just dumb This is my book where it's my least favorite. It's kind of like fantasy slash mm, historical fiction, maybe slash romance. This one is like kind of a lot of genres, but a lot of people like it. And I really wanted to like it. Maybe I read it at the wrong time in my life, but I really did not like The Everlasting. I actually think it's my lowest rated book so far this year, unfortunately, at like a 2 star. I can see what was going on in that book or what they were going for, but I think the book got a little bit too repetitive for me. And once again, I felt like I didn't believe the romance. The romance was clearly like a big plot point to it. The male main character clearly was enamored by the female main character. I loved the female main character. I would literally read a whole book about her, but I didn't care about the reason that we're even in this book being because the male main character was just obsessed with her, but not in a way that I cared for. It kind of gave like forcing somebody to fall in love with you vibes just because you're obsessed with their aesthetic. I really liked what she was going for when she was writing the book. And the first time that this like time loop happened, I was like, yeah, this is actually really cool. And then for another big chunk of the book, we're just going through the same time loop, but like slightly different, describing the same thing over and over again. I was like, I feel like we could have skipped it a few times. I still loved the like fantastical world that we were in, and I liked the descriptions, and I liked the fantasy elements, and I really liked the like time travel aspect of it, but I just felt like we didn't go into it enough for me to say like, okay, that made the book better, because at the end of the day I felt like the plot was just driven by this guy being like obsessed with this woman, and the romance just wasn't believable for me, so I felt like it was just kind of like a waste of time at that point. And then last but not least, my least favorite fantasy book that I've read so far this year was Empire of Storms. If I was told coming off of the high of Queen of Shadows, you get to read these same characters that you really like, but now there's pirates and they're in like a pirate town and they are dealing with the fallout of everything that happened after Queen of Shadows. I would be like, "Ah!" I'd be so excited. And imagine my disappointment. I was so bored the entire time, and I really wanted to love it. I ended up liking Tower of Dawn so much more, and I think Tower of Dawn gets a lot of hate, but I think that the characterization, once again, maybe I'm just more of like a character driven book person, but the characterization in that book was so much better than what happened in Empire of Storm. Book made me not like Aelin for a second there because I was just like, girl, what are you doing? Made me not like a lot of the characters, like made me not really like Rowan anymore, made me just feel like I was dragging my feet to get through any kind of adventurous or important plot point. Like I don't think really anything important happened until the end of the book. And really you could say that about any Sarah J. Maas book. Like the last, it's literally like a joke. It's a meme online where everybody's like, the last 100 pages of a Sarah J. Maas book, you're just going to be sat and reading it the whole time. True. You could say that about any book. So I feel like when you look at her books objectively, like you have to like look at them as a whole instead of the last 100, because I don't think that for a 500 page or whatever book that I have to read 400 pages of really like nothing burger for me to be like, okay, well, it's 4 stars because the end was really good. Well, I just feel like that can't be. You're like 5 books in at this point. I can't be sitting here saying like these characters are like going downhill. I feel like everybody's confused about what's going on, and I'm reading about what even is her name again? The girl that's like running through the woods with that one guy. Like, why is she in the circus? I don't care. Like, I actually don't care. It's disappointing because I'm a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of girl. I grew up watching Pirates of the Caribbean. I was so excited when they said Pirate Town. Pirate Town barely even mentioned. I do want to branch out. So, a couple of the genres that I feel like are the major genres that I have not really read so far this year have been nonfiction books and horror books. But I'm also like, I don't really watch horror movies. So, I don't really know how much I'll like it. And there's so many different like subgenres in horror. Like, Maybe I don't like gory horror, but maybe I like ghosty horror, But I don't know because I've never tried it. So I want to try something in that genre. And then I want to try more nonfictions. But I think there's so many nonfiction books that don't have to be just about like your dad who reads only about like World War II or World War One. Like it goes beyond that. There's so many different kinds of nonfiction books that I want to try out and read about. So really that's like all of the books that I have um really felt like are memorable for me so far this year. Right now I'm reading, what am I reading? Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I saw someone say this and I do feel like it's true. Very like Indiana Jones style. Like Indiana Jones is one of my favorite film franchises like ever. And it does give that kind of vibes, but I'm also kind of bored. So it's kind of annoying because does that even make sense? Like where I'm interested, but I'm also bored. Then I'm reading This Summer Will Be Different to go, on the same like summer romance kind of trend. And I'm like 40 something percent of the way through, almost 50%. And I am enjoying it. I don't think I like it as much as One Golden Summer, but I don't think it's that bad. A Game of Fate, which is, I read A Touch of Darkness, I think in the springtime. And I just was like, hey, I just want to pick something up from my library. So I picked up that book because it was available. Not really enjoying it. Which I don't know why I thought I would, because personally I didn't really like the first one that much. I think I gave it a 3. I don't know why I thought I would like it, but I have it. I'm gonna try to finish it, but I'm only like 15% of the way through. So if I can't get through like 25, I'm just gonna give it back to my library. And that's the beauty of the library, ain't it? That's the beauty of the public library system. Is that I can just return this book and somebody can read it and somebody can really love it. And I love that. That's poetic in a sense. Those are all the books that are my favorites so far and least favorites so far this year. I'm over halfway done with my goal. I'm excited to see at the end of this year what all of my favorite books end up being and if I actually achieve my goal of trying new genres like I wanted to in the beginning of the year. But I just felt like this was kind of like a perfect way to, I feel like we're a little bit over now, but like perfectly halfway through the year. And I felt like this was a good way of really almost like resetting and saying like, okay, this is one of your New Year's goals. How about we lock back in on it? But also like where are you at? And I have kind of branched out, but I have also feel like I've stayed pretty comfortable. And so I do definitely want to try some new stuff. So give me some recommendations if you have them, please. Genuinely. I would love a recommendation. That is all I have. So I hope that you like this. I hope this wasn't too boring. And if you think I have stupid taste, I probably do. But hey, I'm entertained. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Rather this than be doom scrolling. Ain't it true? Ain't it fun? I don't even really know how to end this. So I'm just going to leave it there.